If so-called viruses are simply dead cell debris and millions of cells are dying continuously in a living body, why can't they find them in someone's snot, sputum, or blood? That's a good question. But here's the answer, and I'm going to read this tomorrow night, and I read it in the COVID Myths, COVID Freedom Talk. So there was a claim that rabies is obviously a virus. So I looked and saw, has anybody seen the rabies particle that would be called a virus in any saliva or neurological tissue or any animal or person who is allegedly have rabies? And what I found was very interesting. And again, I read it. I don't have it in front of me to read again, but I'll read it tomorrow. What they found, and I can correctly quote it off the top of my head, is they say this was a paper that said they could isolate it with a cell culture, which is, of course, nonsense. And they said the reason we're doing a cell culture is all previous reports showed that when you examine it with an electron microscope, the saliva of, say, a rabid dog, you find these particles. And the particles are bullet-shaped, rod-shaped, filament-shaped. Some are empty. Some are full. Some of them are spherical. Others look like little balls. And so these are all the rabies virus. And then they went on to say that, well, this is a problem because we all think that the virus should be one thing, right? It should have one morphology, one shape, should look like one thing, like phages look like one thing. And like it's the analogy that I gave was, one morning I went out to see if the kittens were okay after a cold night. And to my surprise, I found 11 cats out there. 2 of them had paws and tail and fur and went meow. And 6 of them had feathers and claws and beaks and went bok, bok, bok. And 3 of them were much bigger and had wool and went bah. And isn't it amazing that all 11 chickens were still there? Well, turns out there was not all chickens. How do I know they're not all chickens? Kittens, because kittens look like kittens and sheep look like sheep and chickens look like chickens. That's how we know. When you're talking about a virus, if one is a rod shaped and one is a bullet shape and one is a filament, those are not the same virus. And so what does that mean? That means, as they pointed out, that the electron microscope creates all these different shapes and sizes and morphology because there is no virus. They're just looking at debris. And they keep trying to find, there's got to be just one, because after all, they're supposedly just the rabies virus. But they can never find just one. All they can find is this mess of debris. And they can't really call that a virus because it's ludicrous. It's like calling a sheep a chicken. Everybody knows it's not a chicken. Everybody knows if you have a rod shape and a bullet shape and a round shape, they're not the same organism if you're a virus. And so they had to try to figure it out another way. So the answer to your question is, you do find things that look like particles, but because there are so many different ones and you can't hide that, it makes no sense. They concluded, well, we better not look in your snot because we know that we're never going to find anything that we can call a virus.